So hello everyone, my name is Valeria Contreras and I am the Advocacy Director for A Plus Colorado.
Hi everyone, my name is Ariel Smith from Transform Education Now.
Good morning everyone, Usman Ba here, Program Coordinator at the African Leadership Group.
Morning everybody, Nicholas Martinez, Transform Education Now. Happy to be here, thank you for having us.
Thank you all for taking the time to sit down with us. If you all could each go around and just explain a little bit about what your organization does for our viewers who may not know about TEN or ALG.
We are a group of community organizers here in the metro area, solely focused on ensuring that families have access to high quality schools in every single neighborhood. We don't believe that your zip code should determine your educational opportunity. And we work to help families, parents, leaders build their own capacity to demand better access for their children. Really, the goal is that 10 out of 10 kids across this city have an educational experience that'll open up the doors of opportunity for them post high school.
And here with the African Leadership Group at ALG, we really try to connect the diaspora and immigrants from the African community, really just integrate to Colorado and the Denver metro area and really provide resources and also provide a platform for themselves to integrate here professionally. A lot of times when they come here, they just want to settle. We want to give them the opportunity to also grow as immigrants and as citizens of this country. We provide so many different programs for them, from public speaking to a business to our education platform as well. And that's one of our biggest programs, is the education platform, where we really help families really learn about the education system here within the Denver metro area and also just across the districts as well. So
thank you all again for being here. Our first question is, as parent-facing organizations, what are you all hearing from parents regarding online schooling? What's going well and what could be better?
I think the challenge, right, is that folks got to go to work. That is one of the number one concerns, is just because COVID hit, just because schools are remote, doesn't mean that everybody is. Our essential workers, our folks who have to show up in person are really struggling. What do you do with your kid if you have to go to work between, I don't know, normal working hours? Who's watching them? Who's supporting them in their learning? Who's doing the technical stuff, like how to mute your camera, how to make sure that you're in the right Zoom room for a 3-year-old, right? I think that has been extremely challenging for families. On top of that, we've said a lot recently, COVID-19 didn't create inequities between groups of people, but it sure did broaden and deepen those inequities. And I think we're seeing that play out now. There are families who are hiring tutors. There are folks who are paying top dollar for childcare, and then there are folks who have nothing. There are folks who are being mailed home a packet once a month, if that, right? Whose kids are getting in person or, synchronous learning 3 hours a day. That hasn't changed. That's not something that's new, right? The quality of education being put in front of our children drastically needs to be improved, and I think that's a hard task for everybody at hand, but it is something that we owe our children.
And from us, it's always the education system's always been a barrier for many of our communities, especially the language barrier, and also just communicating with the districts. But COVID has really put that, really exposed that. Many of our families are working families. They have to go to work. And what we did here in the African Leadership is take ownership to our own hand and not wait for the district to do something. We decided to provide our parents and our communities with a platform where they could actually utilize. We started doing our pods here within the last 2 weeks, really trying to help out the families and the parents, because I know a lot of the parents, it's tough for them to navigate internet as well as just learning technical issues they might have, and the kids being dependent on them. But what we decided to do is with the pods is really have the parents drop off their kids here from 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. or whenever the kids have to leave, and really just provide this platform for them to really to really do their online learning here, because we know it's tough for the parents, especially when they have to work and leaving the kids at home and not knowing how to educate if what the kids are going through. So for here, we assigned some volunteers here that are willing to help out the students that we have in terms of navigating, reaching out to the teachers, reaching out and communicating that with the parents and letting them know what they need and what the students need. Because I know a lot of communities with advantages really have, like Nick was saying, tutors and teachers that really help them. We don't want our communities to stay behind, so we want to really create that platform here with the African Leadership Group, and we've been doing that and waiting until the kids go back to school, but we really wanted to leverage our platform and help the families.
Thank you. I think something that's unique about both of your organizations is that you all serve parents across different districts. And so do you know if there are any similarities or differences in what you're hearing from parents in the different districts that you all serve?
I think that certain districts have accommodated families more creatively and more adaptively. I think that the work that's happening right now in Adams County is really important work that could be work that's replicated across the state and should be. So a couple of things that are happening in Adams County right now, mostly actually due to the work of the county commissioner who's been working on it, Emma Pinter, who's a real champion of education. She's been helping families get access to grants for childcare so that way they have money to pay for if they want to participate in a pod or if they need additional support with one-on-one support at their house. And so that's been really helpful. Right now there's an application open in Commerce City for families to apply for $1,600 in childcare support, which is huge because I think pods and small group instruction are the answer right now. They're the safest version of this. And some schools have really leaned into trusting parents and community to build those, or some districts have. And some districts have just like marched on with the status quo, and that's not working. They'll point to DPS. And some of that, unfortunately, I think DPS is really struggling with how to build adaptive models for kids, and that's been really frustrating for families.
I mean, what's really unique about this situation for us is we haven't had any of our Cherry Creek kids in our pods or even reached out to us. That means they're doing something well for the parents. I don't know what they've been doing. I haven't really looked into it, but a DPS is really most of where the kids are coming from in terms of our pods that we've been having here. I don't know. The kids are struggling, especially with communication wise. Some of their classes starting later than expected. I have kids here that are supposed to start at 9:30 in class. The teacher don't get on till like 10:15, and they're asking me what's Uzi or Mr. Ba. I'm still waiting on my teacher. I'm like, the teacher's still not gone on, or they might be in meetings or something like that. And so that's some of the things I've been seeing with some of my students, or usually connection issues. But we'll be able to fix that on our end. But other than that, they've had a lot of questions more than answers. So more questions than answers.
I think I'm gonna start using that. I'm gonna call you Mr. Ba from now on. I think Mr. Ba brings up a unique point, something that we have to address, right? There are some districts who are doing this right, and there are some kids who are at home where things are going well, right? And part of it is income, and I understand that, and part of it is that now a child gets to be at home with a trusted adult, and they have a flexible schedule, and they have space and resources and a more calm environment, or whatever it may be, or maybe mom and dad are able to provide books that really drive some interest for kiddos. So I think it's easy to recognize that kids are struggling, families are struggling, and yes, that is absolutely true. And there's going to be a bunch of kids who do really well. And I think it's a shame that nobody across this state is really worried about looking about what is happening academically, what progress is being made, what progress isn't being made. And so we're just going to go without really knowing, right? We're not going to be able to identify where things went well and what we should learn from that. And we're not going to be able to serve our kids who have fallen even further behind, right? That's a problem. And that's something that families that we hear from a lot. They are concerned about the progress being made or the progress not being made and not knowing, right? How terrifying would it be to now have your child's education be fully in your hands at home and have no information about what you can do to serve that child, how to help your little one grow, right? And so next year, let's pretend that we all get a vaccine and everything is safe to go back in school, and you send your kid to middle school, and then you are the stark realization that your kid can't read. What does that mean for that child's education kind of trajectory long term? I think it's a shame that our state and our leaders haven't stepped up and said, like, no, actually monitoring that progress is really important to us, because parents have said it's important to them.
Yeah, thank you all for that. I appreciate your guys' honesty, because it's true, it's your truth, and it's what your parents are facing. And probably, you know, people who you're related to or you all know that are going through similar things. Um, have parents spoken at all about communication from schools, from districts, from teachers, school leaders? Is communication going well? Is it not? Are we still seeing language barriers like we were seeing in the spring when COVID first happened, and families not getting materials in their native languages?
Yep. We're having a lot of issues, specifically around high quality interpretation and high quality translation for families. I think that in addition to that, communication generally has been, I think just because it's such a moving target right now, families are feeling really lost. Today is the deadline for DPS for families to decide whether or not their student will be remote for the rest of the year or go in person when it's safe. And we have had families who have been really frustrated and confused by that. DPS still hasn't been able to communicate who the children's teacher would be if they're in person at district-run schools, because they still haven't matched rosters to teachers. And so the communication you normally get from a teacher isn't happening at our district-run schools right now, and that's really frustrating to families and has left them in the dark. And I think generally, one of the things that's been really frustrating for families regarding language barriers is that none of the lessons or any of the content that their students are learning are translated, and that makes it impossible for families to support their students learning at home. And so one of the things that we've been really strong advocates for in the past is recording the lessons so that the teacher can add translated materials to it after. We think that that's a really important step.
Just to piggyback off of your last point that you just said, Ariel. Actually, one of a parent just recently reached out to me because I was been trying to get her to join the pod, and she's very hesitant because of her health situations, and she didn't want her kids to get exposed to anything. She was telling me really about how she wished she understood. She wished she had the material in a different language so she could be able to assist her child. Right now, she's not working, and she wants to get involved and be there to support the children. But the only issue was the language. And I told her I could do my best if you could send me anything or a Snapchat or a video chat or anything I could be able to assist that. And that's a difficult situation to be in. And that's not just one parent. That could be many parents out there in my community. So that's a big issue. And a lot of parents it's really just a lack of communication that they're getting. A lot of times they get information and it's not transparent. They want to say one thing and they completely change something the next week. So that's a lot of the issues they're having. And also the language barrier has always been a barrier, especially in DPS. I know APS has taken steps to help our communities, but I know DPS is still lagging in that area for many of our parents in that community. But yes, the communication's it's been tough because a lot of updates and a lot of changes, and parents are just looking at it like, wow, you can't decide on things, you know. So I know that's been tough for us in our side.
Thank you all for that. Kind of shifting a little bit, and you've spoken to this a little bit as well. in some of your previous answers, but what are your orgs specifically doing to support students? Or is there something else that you all are doing that you haven't talked about yet, that you all are doing, you know, going above and beyond to support these parents that aren't getting support from their districts, and so they're looking for resources to get support, and that's where you all are coming in and helping out the families?
We've really tried to build online communities where families can connect and collaborate with each other. That's been something that I think has been a real supportive system for families. We have a Slack channel and have that channel in multiple languages too, for families to connect and collaborate with families who are also having issues, specifically around language justice. We host a weekly parent meeting where parents can just join us to ask any questions. This week we hosted two because of today's deadline. That's in Spanish and English and any other language upon request. And then we make about 700 to 1,000 phone calls a week to check in on families. And on those phone calls, the first thing we check in on is food security, making sure that families have everything they need and are connected to resources to make sure that no one's hungry in their house. The second thing is we check in on technology. During the spring, 10 was passing out computers and hotspots to families across the metro area. And then the third thing is we get them connected to our Slack channel where they can access additional resources, and we just assess how learning is going.
I think there is such trust in our communities to just take what our schools and our teachers give us as face value and saying like, this is it, this is the end all be all. I think part of our work, and that Ariel mentioned on kind of some of our digital platforms, is also connecting folks to things that they may have never heard of, things like Khan Academy, Learn Learning, you know, opportunities for additional learning for their kids, right? Like, you know, one of the things I mentioned was this being an opportunity for kids who maybe don't thrive in a classroom setting to really excel for whatever reason, right? And I think that families recognize that this is an opportunity for them, for their little ones, you know, whether they're elementary or high school, to do what they're asked and then do more, right? And then really have an opportunity to kind of push that learning and push that academic growth that maybe wouldn't be happening in the classroom. And so the other thing that happens on all of those channels and all of those communications is just sharing of resource between community. You know, we believe deeply in the power and the expertise of parents and community members. And, you know, we have folks doing some innovative work and doing some exciting things and trying new stuff and sharing that with other parents, right? Sharing the things that work, sharing the things that aren't working so folks don't have to trial by error on their kids. And I think that is one of the more exciting things that we see happening there, is that sharing of resources, is that like kind of additional push that parents are pushing on their kids. Blows my mind that people still think that like our communities don't care about education, and they are going above and beyond for their kids when their schools are not, right? When their schools are doing the bare minimum, our parents are picking up that slack and pushing their kids beyond what would normally be expected of their kids.
One of the programs I really enjoy here, I call it my baby, is the Youth Empowerment Program. It's really the platform where I let the kids just be themselves on Friday, and we just have open conversations and just keep it 100 with each other. And a lot of the kids, I let them know this is open space. Whatever you say, it's just gonna be between us. Some of the students, what they brought up, really, that's why we launched this new platform I'm about to talk about, was with the online schooling. What some of the issues they were having, I just asked them what are some of the issues, and a lot of the common theme amongst them was the fact that the lack of communication in terms of homework help. If they send it out to a teacher or tutoring, they wasn't getting any information or updates. It might take a day or a couple of days, or it might be the same day, depending on what school or district or the teacher. What we decided to do, I decided to do was really create a tutoring platform and meet them where they at. I know they use, a lot of them use Google Classrooms, and we decided to create a Google Classroom tutoring platform digitally, because I know a lot of the kids now are tech savvy, but many of their parents, you know, coming from remote villages in Africa, might not understand how to use some of the digital tools that we're accustomed to, and we decided to go with that because a lot of the parents were asking about that too. because they have a hard time really trying to help their students and their kids with schoolwork because they don't know how to use some of the digital tools that are provided. And we wanted to really just help the kids out because I felt when they was talking about these issues, I'm like, wow, really? I didn't know, like some of the stuff I didn't know. And I was like talking to Papa and the LG team, and they really brought up the idea of just doing a opening up a tutoring program for them. So we launched that this week. It's going to be Tuesdays and Thursdays. Your kids are welcome to join. We have 2 professors from the APS district that are going to assist with that. And we're excited about that. The kids are excited, and I'm really happy just to see where the kids' needs were and being able to provide that for them. And that's what we're doing. And also we're using Khan Academy as well. We have a professor that we reached out to in Miami that really want to work with the kids here as well. So she's gonna do that on Saturdays. She'll make her Saturdays available for some of our students, and I'm excited about that.
Those are all really great things that I think are going on. And I think I speak for myself and the team of A+, is that we're very thankful for your presence in this community, because I think if in a perfect world, organizations like ours would not exist, but we are not in a perfect world, and therefore we do. And so, yeah, I think these are really great things that are happening, and I'm really happy that people get to hear about it because I think it's important. Since you all are parent-facing organizations, do you know, or what would you say that your parents would want district officials to know about what's going on right now with them and online learning?
I think number one, it's not working. I think that's the big thing, and I think educators know it. I think school leaders know it. I think parents get it. I think everybody else needs to hear loud and clear that what we got going on right now isn't working. It's not working for children, and we owe it to these kids to figure out something better. I get that we are in the middle of a pandemic. Times are hard. Budgets are hard. We have to figure this out, and we have to figure out now. It is September. I know school has just started, but before we blink, we're going to be in December, right? And then it's going to be the end of the school year, and we will have lost an entire year because the adults couldn't figure it out.
I spoke to a parent recently, and their biggest fear was the student being behind, and this could really impact them in their future, especially this is a critical year for one of her students. And that's really what the parents are worried about, is their students lacking or being behind in their reading level and their math or any of the specific subjects is one of their biggest fear. And that's what they want the districts to know. They don't want their kids behind. Their kids have worked so hard to be here, and for them to be uncertain about a lot of things, because there's a lot of uncertainties, and parents don't know, the district might not know, so it's just a lot of uncertainties, and parents really have questions. And what don't want my parents, especially in our community, they think coming here and they really just believe everything is set in stone because that's how the district did, that's how it's supposed to be, and not understanding some of the stuff that goes on behind the district and the equities within the education system and the disparities as well. So it's really, I want to ingrain that in their mind that they have the freedom to really choose their child's education and how the child's education should be taught. So, and one of the issues is really just lack of communications that they're mentioning.
Yep, I totally agree about lack of communication. I think that's huge. Yeah, I also think families need resources. Like, the fact of the matter is that there's a lot of families who are doing everything that they can with what they have, but if they had money to hire a tutor right now, just if they know their kids are behind in reading, and for some families this is the first time they've discovered it because the school wasn't transparent with them. And now all of a sudden they're realizing that their third grader is still struggling with basic letters. And they know that they need help. and they know they need resources, and they use resources like what Uzi was saying about Khan Academy. They use free learning tools online. We put a lot of those resources up, but it would be so helpful if they had the resources to hire a tutor, or they had the resources to support their students learning at home. And since the system, is really struggling to support them, I really believe that parents should be the interventionists. I think that we are watching families who are, as Nick said, being more proactive than school districts right now about their students' learning. And it's a shame that we aren't adequately resourcing that.
Thank you all again. Our last question, as always, because we believe in reciprocity, what can the community do to support your organizations and or the parents that you all are serving?
I mean, for me, especially the coalition work, what I like about it is the information I get, because a lot of times I'm busy with other programs and I forget to attend some of these meetings and understand what's going on in the education landscape. I know Climb Higher does a fantastic job providing resources and updates from district meetings, so I could share that with our community, because they trust in us and they believe in us to represent them in this this space, and they want us to provide that same information. And I always enjoy the time when I'm in coalition meeting, because I'm learning a lot from you guys and the things you guys are part of and involved in, and some of the resources you guys might have that I could share with my community. And usually it's the lack of resources, and any resources you guys have is really what we look forward to, is really sharing that in our space and with our community members. And I always echo that to any meeting I say, any meeting I'm part of, because everything I learned here is shared here. I really just share that information with our communities and make sure they're updated, because a lot of times I get caught up in a lot of the other work that ALG does, because I oversee some of those other programs, and I tend to forget sometimes. So every time I'm in this space, I always know I'm representing my parents and my students. So any resources, any help you guys have, or any updates you guys have, just if you share that information, I'm always sharing that with the community. So thank you guys.
Yeah, I mean, we always appreciate the updates and the partnership. That's really helpful, because I think, we're spending a ton of time supporting families, and sometimes it's really easy to miss things, or to need additional support in doing the learning around how the policies impact families. So it's really helpful. I will also say, we are always accepting donations. We still are supporting families who don't have access to technology throughout the state. So we always have a need for additional Chromebooks and additional hotspots, which we buy with donations that we raise. So if anyone's interested in donating, you can go to transformeducationnow.org, and there's a big donate button on the top. So that's always helpful. And then we also are always looking for volunteers to help us with parent outreach. We spend a ton of time doing parent outreach, and it's really helpful whenever possible to have volunteers. And it's also a great way to better understand what's happening and how parents are being impacted by remote learning, spending some time on the phone with them.
I always feel so awkward, waiting. I'm like, are we good? Thanks for that. Thumbs up, Nick. Thank you all again for your time and for sharing your truth and the truths of your parents, because this is what they're experiencing and people need to know. If you all want to learn more about TEN or ALG, please visit their websites. And you heard it, if you all can provide ALG with resources and information and provide TEN with some money donations, your time to talk to parents, please support them if you can and you are able to. Let's do some community work. Again, thank you all so much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us. Thank you for creating this space. We appreciate it.
Thank you for having us.